Well, a very, very warm welcome to our student panel this afternoon. And for me, I think this is one of the highlights of DigiFest because this will be the only session that you get to hear the student voice live and in the room. And how fantastic is that? The panel is titled Why Students Think Digital Skills Are Important for the Workplace. I'm Sarah Knight, I'm Head of Change and Student Experience within Jisc. And student partnerships has been one of the areas I've been championing over a number of years through the work we've done on the Change Agents Network. And I know many of you in the room as well are working with your students in partnership to drive forward innovation and change. And I'm absolutely delighted today to have our students here representing further and higher education to talk about their role in driving forward change within their colleges and universities, and in particular, the important agenda around digital skills. In the keynote this morning, I heard the importance of upskilling, of being curious, of using digital technology to really enhance what we do. And I think today we're very much going to be hearing those views from our students in terms of how it is making a difference to them in their lives, and more importantly, supporting them to become digitally ready for the workplace. A few sort of pointers up there in terms of sort of key stats and information that I think just drives home the importance of our role in developing our staff and students' digital capability. We know that there is a skills gap. There is evidence there from the reviews that have been done and some of the latest research that although we are using technology, there is still far more to be done to ensure that everyone has the skills to live, learn and work in a digital society. And of course, for us at Jisc, that's vitally important in ensuring that we can support you with that agenda in your colleges and universities. So it is important that we develop those skills for that changing landscape. And importantly, it's not just the skills we need today, it's the skills that we're going to need in the future to become digitally resilient and to be adaptable and flexible to the changing technology that is all around us. So what are our students telling us? And I go into a lot of presentations, I visit a lot of colleges and universities, and there are a lot of assumptions that are made around students. And some of the myths that I'm hoping our research at Jisc has been able to dispel over the years. And of course, the most important thing is to actually ask your students. And just a quick show of hands from the audience, how many of you in your college or university have the opportunity or the mechanisms or the approaches to involve your students in discussions around digital? So a good show of hands, and I would expect that for our audience that come to DigiFest. But when I normally ask that question, there's probably about half of the audience are able to say confidently there is a mechanism of actually engaging and ensuring our students have a voice and are able to feed in their ideas in relation to digital developments. Through our work that we've been doing at Jisc on our Digital Experience Insight surveys, we now have a way, sort of a national way, of collecting student voice and staff voice around the use of technology. The results there are from our 2018 survey, and some of those stats, I think the headline ones there, in particular, relate to the fact that although 50% of FE and 69% of HE students thought digital skills were important for their chosen career, only 41% of those students felt their courses prepare them for a digital workplace. And that, to me, is a really important point to remember and to take back into our institutions and thinking, so how are we integrating opportunities for digital skills within the curriculum? How are we ensuring that our students are able to develop the skills to be able to go out into the workplace digitally confident and digitally resilient? And importantly as well, to give our students a voice, to be able to share their ideas, to be able to work in partnership to develop the digital environment. So that's hearing what our national surveys are telling us in terms of our benchmark data and in terms of the student experience. And what we're going to be hearing today in our student panel are the views of our students that are here today. And I'm really delighted that we have students here, and I'll just sort of introduce them from my side, going across the stage. But we have Jack Edwards and Callum Hibbard from Harlow College, who have already sort of co-presented earlier today with Kelly Edwards in a previous session. Then we have Brad Miller, who's a student from Ravensbourne University and also one of our Jisc student partners. And I'm absolutely delighted to say that we at Jisc are now also recognising the value of working in partnership with our students and have a student partner scheme. So if any of your students would like to be involved and become a Jisc student partner, please do come and speak to me or speak to Caitlin, who's also in the room somewhere, afterwards, because it's a wonderful way for students to really make an impact, not just at their local level, but also at a national level now. We have Eli Heathfield, who is a business studies student from Gloucestershire College. And we have, moving across the empty seat, we have Katie Brown, who is an art and design student from Gloucestershire College. We have Sam Jenkins, who is a history student from the University of Winchester, and also delighted to say is one of our Jisc student partners as well. And on the end, we have Reese, who's an A-level student from City of Wolverhampton College, and Laura, who is also an A-level student at City of Wolverhampton College. So welcome, and so delighted that you could give up your time today to come along and share your views with us, because we're really excited to hear your views on why digital skills are important, and in particular, how they are going to develop you in terms of moving out into the workplace. So I'm going to come and join you on the panel. And we're going to have some questions that I have prepared to talk through with the students, but also please do think of students that you would like to ask our panellists. We will also check some tweets, so if you have got a question and don't want to use the mic to answer it, please do use your Twitter. We've got digital capability hashtag and DigiFest, and proceed your question with a Q, and we'll be able to pick that up. So starting off, and this is something we can see who would like to go first on this, but just a general question to our students in thinking about how technology is supporting you with your learning. Have you got any specific examples that you'd like to share from us?
So in my course, we use Adobe InDesign and Adobe Premiere Pro. They're both industry standard programs, and they allow me to produce creative work. So this year, I've made a short documentary as well as a series of creative magazines. So like I said, they're both industry standard, both very good. There's also Adobe Photoshop and Audacity, which I use to enhance the projects. And then, I'm not sure if Kelly mentioned it earlier, there's Shobi, which is used for communications and workflow. So that's in terms of feedback. So I can use that to hand in work, get feedback on my work. And although those programs on the computer, full-time learners also get an iPad for the duration of their course. And that increases the use of creative apps like SparkPage, Padlet and iMovie. And I think it's important because if you use all these programs now, your use of them gets better, so you're more prepared for using programs like this in the future.
That's brilliant, Callum. Thank you for that. And I think what's an important point you've picked up there is actually having industry standard software, particularly relevant to the course that you're doing and the experience you'll have in the workplace. And that was something through all our research with learners came back as very, very important. They were recognising where colleges, universities weren't able to provide industry standard software, and in some cases were going out and purchasing their own packages so that they could have that sort of quality of experience. So great to hear that that's happening at Harlow. Would anyone else like to sort of add to that? If I move to this side and then I'll come back.
Hello.
Thank you, Reese.
Hello. Our college, City of Wolverhampton College, it's really good in the way that it's set up a Google Drive. It's brilliant in the way that it allows us to consolidate our notes. It allows our teachers to communicate, because we use like Google Docs, we use Google Slides. Very easy to like send amongst each other. I mean, personally, I have bad handwriting, and it's really nice to have, the capabilities of having an on-the-go word processor. I can access my phone or my laptop, or like if I was in a library in Birmingham, I'm not from Birmingham, I could just log on a computer and, go on my notes or whatever.
No, that's really important. I think, to be able to have those tools that can help you do that seamlessly without having to think, oh, I need to go and you need to use that particular packet. You've got it there, you've got that access at all time.
It simplifies things in a really good way as well. Like, I feel like when further education brings in like technology and it simplifies things, that's when it shines the most. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know exact point, but yeah, that's what I'm still with.
No, that's really important. And I think, again, what we've found is that sometimes we as staff think, oh, it's explicit. Students will know exactly why we're using the technology. But often it's really important to actually say, well, how will this make your life simpler? You know, what are the advantages? And actually being explicit when you are designing technology in, to actually share that with your students and to be able to have that. So thank you, Reese. Anyone else like to, going back to this side?
Yeah, sure thing.
Sam? Go, Brad.
Sorry, sort of following up on what everyone said, we use lynda.com, which is great for tutorials on all the Adobe software, so we can advance our skill further without the need for just what we're taught in lectures. Is everyone familiar with Aula by any chance? That's a new and upcoming app. Essentially, think like Facebook, but for students and teachers. You have a tab for your lectures where people can ask a discussion about that unit, and you have a materials tab, so all the briefs, everything is published in one place, and there's even a fun little bit with emojis, so you know what everyone's feeling about your work. It's a nice touch. There's also Planet eStream, which here today. They're really good because studying digital film production, you need to watch films as we have to do an analysis and talk about where we get our inspirations for our work. So having a database to all these old films helps us get the top grade.
Fantastic. Eli, do you want to share your experiences?
Thank you. Personally, due to having poor handwriting, I use an app called Microsoft OneNote. It means I don't have to make any notes for my classes because I can record an entire set of a lesson. I then use that lesson as part of one of my research methods for assignments.
Brilliant. So again, a really nice example, as Reese was saying, about using the technology to really make life easier and to help and go back and revisit when you need to as well.
Yeah.
That's fantastic.
So for me, I do A-levels. It's more just getting the information I need to remember for my exams. And I think with the iPads that we have, we're given quite a lot of freedom with how we're supposed to learn rather than, I remember at my secondary school, we're given a way to learn and that's your way you learn whether you like it or not, whereas we're allowed to explore what works best for us. So for me, it's more visual learning. So for sociology, I have mind maps on each possible essay that will come up and I'll remember. So my Marxism one looks like a triangle. And I'll just remember things visually and it's helped me sort of have my own style in the way I'm learning. It's benefited me massively.
That's a really important point. Sorry, Leah, do you mind just passing down the mic? You've picked up a really important point there because you were saying that at school you all had to learn in a particular way and you didn't necessarily have that freedom to explore these different ways of learning. And I think that's one of the things I was very interested when I visited Harlow, is that there was such a range of different ways in which you could support your own learning and development, and a lovely example of how mind mapping can really help you with the visual aspects of learning. That's fantastic. Thank you. I'm going to come back to this side to see if Katie wants to share anything, because with art and design, again, you've got a different experience.
Well, when it comes to art and design, it's a lot more sort of Adobe, things like that, but we also have the Adobe Creative Cloud that lets you link everything together, and sort of if I do a piece of work at home that I didn't get time to finish, I can then continue that piece of work at college when I get in. And then there's also sort of the VLE, which is very, very useful because we have lots of worksheets that can't be printed, like pages and pages of different research, and just putting it all on there so that your teachers can access it, other people in your class can access it, is really sort of good for everyone.
That again brings to that important point, I think, of having that minimum level of expectation of what is on your virtual learning environment, so students can go revisit, revise, refresh, and you know where it all is. It's in that central place that you can all find easily and accessibly. That's really important. Laura, do you want to add anything on the end?
Adding on to the variety in ways of learning that we can access through digital content. Due to Google Drive, we can use slides and collaborate together to make presentations if we find that an easier way to learn. On the other hand, we also use sites like Canva to make effective infographics and posters that are also very helpful towards our learning.
Thank you. And Sam, do you want to add your perspective?
Well, there's one particular app that me and some of my friends on my course have found really useful for exam preparation, and that's Quizlet. I don't know if any of you are familiar with that. Because what you can do, it's where you make online flashcards, and there is a function on there where you can create groups and classes. So what we decided to do as a revision group is we created our own group, and we had the settings so that anybody could add information to it. So we went through the information that our lecturer had put on our VLE, which is Canvas. We split our group into different topic areas. We assigned each member of the group a different topic, and then we went away and worked out what things we felt were most important to revise, and then we added that to this. It was almost like a database, and we kind of just added it to that as a way of group collaboration in the run-up to our exam. And I think that was very, very useful in terms of making sure that we had relevant information, and also it encouraged teamwork during our first year of exams at university, which we were all a bit stressed about.
That's a lovely example of thinking about collaboration, isn't it? And also be able to, you truly understand something when you have to test each other and revise those sort of key facts and principles. That's a lovely idea. And great example of student co-creation as well. And is that continuing now in your second year?
Yeah, we've been kind of split up since then by our modules, but it's certainly something we could definitely use in the future, definitely.
Super. Well, it's that great range of different tools and technologies and apps that we're hearing about here from across our colleges and universities. And I suppose my next question sort of follows on from that. I mean, I know that you're all very digitally capable and very digitally confident, and that's why you're speaking today. But thinking about, your own experiences or experiences of your friends in your colleges and universities, how do you get support with the development of your digital skills? How have you learnt all of this? Has this been something that you have learnt yourselves? Who do you go to get some help? Is it each other? So I'd be really interested just to hear how you get the support to develop your digital skills and your confidence. Who would like to go first? Jack, do you want to?
So at college we're given an iPad within our first week, and we're given sort of a 30-minute long sort of tutorial on basic apps and how we're supposed to use the iPad to our full capabilities and how it will work for us sort of in an education setting rather than a social setting which we would normally use it at home. With the core 5 and top 10 apps, we use them quite often, and then once you're sort of confident with them apps, naturally being quite curious, a lot of the students, they sort of go off and find their own apps that best suit them. So I'll use one called Simple Mind for the mind maps and sort of setting out my revision, and it sort of goes from there. So we've got the core apps, and then us being curious, we'll go out and find ones that will best suit us, really. And then we're given we've got a digital team at college, and any question you can go up and ask them, and they'll try and help you out as much as possible, really.
And then as well, like within your department, when you go to lessons, obviously the teachers give you detailed lessons on how to use them all when they're on hand to answer questions. So my class is split between someone who used to work in radio, someone who works in TV on the side, and someone who's had a sports journalism course degree at university. So there's like a range of knowledge, so they can all support you in different ways of how to use the technology and make the most of it. And then they sometimes recommend, like tutorial sites to go on or further sites to use at home. So it's like it comes from like a range of opinions and like a range of knowledge.
That's super. I mean, one of the things that you are highlighting there, though, is that your tutors and your lecturers are also quite digitally confident through all the work that Kelly's been doing with them. So that, I think it's so important because students are looking for guidance and support and help, and it's really important that our staff feel that they can have that confidence to help and support you and also sort of co-develop their skills with you. Fantastic. Should we move to this side and then I'll come back to Brad and Eli. Sam, did you want to say from Winchester, how are you supported? Where do you go for help?
Yeah, so at my university we have TEL champions. So these are people, I believe they're students, and I think they meet on Tuesday afternoons, if I remember rightly. And you can go to them and you can talk to them about issues with technology or digital software if you want advice or help with it, or they can recommend new things. They can help you with the existing software you're looking at. In terms of our course, we have certain types of assignments like posters and presentations, where the emphasis isn't just on the content, it's about how that content is laid out and how it's delivered. So that encourages us to use things like infographics and to think about more of the design elements of it, which helps our digital skills through that. And our lecturers are also encouraging the use of digital technology through using software like Kahoot or Me2 or I've forgotten what the other one's called, Mentimeter, that's it. Within lectures as a way of encouraging interactive engagement within the group. They're all things that are very simple to implement, really, but it's the simple things that really matter in terms of giving students the opportunity to really harness their skills.
That's great, Sam. And I think you picked up an important point there. You know, those apps you're mentioning, those tools you're mentioning are all opportunities to gather feedback. So it is that opportunity of having that interaction with students and getting the student views to be able to assess where the more challenging areas are in the curriculum that you might want to have some support of. So it is about that interaction and those links in. Thank you. So coming back to this side, Brad, did you want to say, in terms of your experience at Ravensbourne, where and who do you go to for help in terms of developing your skills?
It's really interesting being asked this because it's actually made me think there's more sources than what I would have initially thought when I started university. So as I mentioned, Aula, we composed all our questions on that, and usually because there's a notification bell, we've had it at midnight before where somebody goes, where do we have to go to submit this essay? And then a minute later somebody replies because our whole year group is linked to that. Same for Facebook, we have a messenger chat that I've had to put on mute. There's about at least 100 of us in there, and it's chaotic, but that's really good again because it's another source for people to get information. Our lecturers give us tutorials for After Effects, and like I said, as well as that, we've got, what's it called? That's gone blank. But they're the main three. They're the main three that we use.
So you've got a lot of peer support,
it's just peer support, grouping, and there is one other thing. We have an information desk on the 4th floor, which is really helpful, because they're open until 8 p.m, so even when all the other teachers go home, they're still there. That's what I was thinking of.
And do they help in terms of, do you take your own devices into university? So if you take your phone in or your iPad or laptop, are they able to support you if you have got issues with
especially with Udemy. I'm assuming we've all had that problem. Sometimes it just doesn't connect, but as soon as you go up there, they know the problem and they solve it in a matter of minutes, which is really good because you can't go a minute without Wi-Fi in the industry that we want to go into. It's not that we're addicted.
I am.
I think we all are, aren't we? Great. Eli.
Thank you. I found at Gloucester College that we have the VLE, which is used to upload assignment briefs and all resources required for a lesson. We have computers which are also, and phones which are used for assignment research and lesson research. We also have computers, phones, and as has been pointed out previously, we also have a lot of peer support. So we've got Facebook group chats, and on one course I'm aware they also are using Snapchat, and also as an innovator which is where I've managed to review lots of apps and see what others have been reviewing. It's been an opportunity to see apps that could enhance my learning.
That's fantastic to have that opportunity as well, to review other apps and see how you could use them in your own learning. But again, that theme of that sort of peer support comes through quite strongly as well. That's really interesting because in our digital experience survey last year, the results came back, I think quite surprisingly in some respects, that there was a great emphasis for students in terms of turning to their peers for support. Slightly more so in HE, I have to say. In FE, the first port of call was still their tutors. So again, thinking about our tutors being that source of knowledge, being digitally capable, having that awareness, it's really important that they are still seen to be a really important point of guidance, as well as sort of peers as well. So coming across to, should we do Reese and Laura? And then I'll come back to Katie.
You want to say this?
So where do you go for your support?
For digital support, we have access to our library to borrow devices like laptops and iPads, which have a range of technology on them. And if we need help with that kind of device or the software that is over those devices, we often go to either peers or, I mean, a lot of the people in the library can help with that kind of stuff as well.
Yeah. Obviously, as well, it's been mentioned, you know, you got your tutors, you got your peers. I mean, something funny to mention as well. I noticed, particularly at my old school, that teachers also seek support from their students sometimes.
Yeah.
So like further knowledge and stuff. I mean, you know, like it could be simple, like we're in Google Docs and I teach them how to format something, you know, or someone brings in a new website and the teacher, you know, starts using it. It's brilliant. I mean, obviously, library. I mean, we're really blessed as well to have a tutor who I think thinks of, I was mentioned earlier in the opening talk of technology as like a new literacy.
Yes.
Because I feel like some, you know, teachers think of it by case basis. Like, I teach history, I'm going to, you know, use all these apps that are useful for history.
Yes.
Some may also think of it like a general thing, like, you know, you're going to go out to a big wide world, use all these skills you learn here. It's a foundation. Sorry,
Yeah.
I didn't answer properly.
No, that's really important. I think, you know, Laura, you've mentioned a really important point there, because so often the library is that central source of support and help. And, you know, a lot of what came back through our Insight survey last year was having clear signposting to where support is available. Brad mentioned there's a desk on the 4th floor that he knows he can go to and help. Laura and Reese have mentioned the library is there as that first stop. So it's really important that students have got access to support for using their digital devices or for accessing the technology, and not just told to them in induction week. So much is sort of fed in induction. It's really important that that is where students are supported throughout, you know, their sort of course of study and their year of study. Katie, did you want to add anything from art and design side in terms of where you get your support from?
We have sort of timetabled directed study lessons, as
Right.
it was, and it's just the whole class in the library where you can sort of get that
Right.
the answers to
Yes.
questions that maybe teachers didn't have time to go over or just couldn't really ask, like the small questions. And it's timetabled with sort of the librarians and everything like that. So you can use the computers, you can borrow iPads, drawing tablets, and just talk to each other and make sure you've got all the information you need for your lessons.
So again, bringing that library in as a real sort of central hub in terms of supporting that sort of digital skills development. Excellent, thank you. And if we're moving on, because I think what we're hearing, we have got obviously some very digitally confident students here. We've got some universities and colleges who are really ensuring that their students know where to get that support from, how to support them with their use of technology. But I would like to move us on in terms of thinking about digital skills for the workplace. And I know that some of you are, you know, in different stages of your educational journey. Some of you are doing A-levels. We've got other students here that are progressing further on in their courses of study. But it'd be really useful just to hear from your perspective and also from the different sort of subject backgrounds that you represent. Firstly, you know, why do you think digital skills is important for going out into the workplace and your future sort of careers? I don't know who'd like to start us off. It's quite a challenging question, but
Well, I think
Callum, give it a go.
I've got Mike ready. Sorry. I think obviously, like in the workplace itself, like in an adult world, technology is growing. It's getting better and it's becoming more important in the workplace. So I think it's a must that students keep up their skills with it and stay in touch with what they can do and what they need to do. So like you said about your subjects, like I'm studying journalism and I'm going to sports media, sports broadcast. So that's a really challenging industry. Like, you know, a lot of people who enjoy sport want to go into that. So I need to make sure that I'm kept up to date with technology, because I've applied for an apprenticeship with Sky Sports News. So a lot of people are going to want to go into that. So I need something that sets me above the rest of them, as well as just being like good at writing and talking about sports. So, like, you know, I could go to work one day, hopefully should I end up there, and they might put me on editing software I've never used before, or they might put me in a department I'm not as comfortable in. So like you need to stay adaptable and up to date with all the technology rather than just what you're good at. So I think that's why it's important that you know, stay with what's relevant and stay good with technology.
You should be sat in this chair. Interview us. Thank you, Callum. Jack, did you want to follow on from that?
Similar to Callum, it's just being more adaptive and giving us the skills that we need to be better than someone else, because there's some people going for the same job that we need to have that upper hand, and the skills that we use through technology can be done outside of technology as well. It's just the sort of thinking process we use behind it. An example we used for work experience, went to a recruitment place, and I sort of showed them, instead of your Microsoft PowerPoint, how else you could present stuff. And they were really interested in it, and you can see I went back in 6 months and they'd already implemented in their marketing team iPads they all had. And it sort of shows how the world is developing and we need to be kept up to date, and we can have the upper hand sort of in job opportunities for this.
Yes, thank you, Jack. Let's move on to this side. Daisy.
Well, art is very, depending on what you want to go and do after you finish the course, it can be very, very tech-based. Sort of if you want to do animation, digital art, things like that, they provide you with sort of all the Adobe things you need to be able to do that. But on the flip side, sort of before I did art, I did early years. And there's a thing in early years called Tapestry, which is sort of allows you to track a child's progress, where they're going and everything like that. And it's all digital, so sort of parents can log into the Tapestry and see where their child is, and they teach you how to use it in the lessons. So you'll spend sort of a few lessons in 1 week just going over how to use it, why it's important, how parents can use it, and everything like that.
So we're starting to see that whichever sort of course we're on or subject area, if we are thinking about sort of moving into the workplace, whether it be early years or art and design, it's absolutely essential that you do have those skills in order to be able to move into the workplace and you know, be ready to go, isn't it? Sam, did you want to add to that from your perspective?
Yeah, I completely agree. Last year I was involved in a student fellows project which explored digital capabilities of students, and it matched to try and see how they link to the digital capabilities of staff, but also the digital capabilities of graduate employers. And what the results of that found were that employers want graduates with transferable skills beyond their degree, because by developing digital skills, what new graduates bring is they bring something new which perhaps more experienced employees might not have been able to have developed when they were in university. So digital skills is highly, highly important in terms of standing out in the job market, as well as being able to bring something new and dynamic when you're contributing to the new organisation that you're working for.
Thank you, Sam. And you pick up an important point there, because Nesta, I know we've got a keynote tomorrow morning from Nesta, and some of their recent research has been to review a vast number of job adverts and to look at the levels of digital skills and digital that is required in those job adverts. So we'll probably hear some interesting findings tomorrow being shared in the keynote around that topic. But we can't get away from the fact that, you know, there is that expectation from employers that there is some level of digital capability that is being required in all different areas. Reece and Laura, did you want to add your perspective? I know you're A-level, so... But
of course. But see, Sam brought up new and dynamic. That stuck with me, because something that I think is going to be very important about digital skills in the workplace is, you know, like... it's been a few 30 years today, World Wide Web. It's revolutionised everything, and like technology in general is getting better and better. And new jobs are, you know, emerging, new demands. And I feel like digital skills are so important, because they allow you to, you know, if you're on top of them, you can stay on top of the new, changing, you know, everything's just evolving.
yes,
I hope I'm coming across clearly.
Absolutely.
I'm just trying to think, like, so for instance, journalism over there, I mean, the amount of Twitter is now quite mainstream, but that's so important for journalists, you know, you need to follow everyone, see what everyone's saying. I mean, every time the President of the United States tweets, there's a news article on that. But, you know, and there's going to be new forms of communication that people are going to have to tap into. Artwork, I mean, you know, there's so many niches in that. You want to stay connected, see all these different communities. Maybe you could provide for those communities. I hope I'm coming across.
Yes, that's great, Reese. Thank you.
Yours it? That's fine.
That's great. Brad and Eli, I think, on this side.
Pretty much
Anything
really
to
well
add?
covered. The only thing, I think, and it sounds really simple, but the teachers, I've noticed a lot of them are going on Facebook now, which is great because that's a way to communicate with students, because a lot of students don't respond to their emails or check them. So whenever there's a bit of information they need or something urgent going on in the uni, they don't tend to see it. So it's trying to get away, because teachers are starting to do what we want, which is lovely, but it's trying to find a way for students to look on their emails, find a way without it taking over their lives at the same time, but encouraging them to look every so often, because when you come into the workplace, that's it, you've got to check your emails constantly.
Eli, anything further to add?
Yes, from a subject perspective, technology is very important because in business, a lot of the jobs now involve technology, and from a personal perspective, having a learning disability and struggling with handwriting, I feel like I need, and others like me need digital skills to be on a level playing field.
That is so important, and I think that, you know, it's a level playing field for all, and students that may not have a learning difficulty or disability can also benefit from using some of those techniques and those apps. So important. I think that's one of the things that, again, has come back from our research around our learner experience work. And if anyone is interested in some prior work we did, please do Google LexDis, L-E-X-D-I-S. That's a fantastic site that is supported by the University of Southampton and is created by students. And students have shared their workarounds for a lot of tools and technologies and apps that they are using to support particular learning difficulties or disabilities that they have. So it's a wonderful source that is still curated and supported by the University of Southampton, and really has crowdsourced students' techniques on making the best use of all technology, not just assistive technology. That's a really important point.